Aboriginal, a history the world almost forgot.
But before we start, please support us by pressing like and subscribe buttons. Also turn on the bell notification to get the latest updates. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you.
Long before the first sails of European ships cut through the waves of the Indian Ocean, before Rome rose with its marble columns and before the pyramids of Giza pierced the Egyptian sky, there was a people whose footsteps traced the red dust of a vast southern continent. These were the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, custodians of a land and culture so ancient, it reaches back more than 65,000 years. Their history is not written in scrolls or carved in stone monuments, but etched in songlines, painted on cave walls, and whispered in the rustling of eucalyptus leaves. The story of the Aboriginal Australians begins at the very dawn of human migration. As early Homo sapiens ventured out of Africa, they spread across the continents in waves of discovery and survival. Some traveled along the coastline of Asia, following the shores until they reached the Sunda Shelf and beyond. Eventually, a group of these early humans made a perilous journey by sea, using primitive rafts or dugouts, to reach Sahul, the prehistoric supercontinent that once connected what is now Australia, New Guinea, and Tasmania. Once on this ancient landmass, the Aboriginal people did not merely survive, they thrived. Over tens of millennia, they developed deeply spiritual and complex societies structured around their relationship to the land, the sky, and the dreaming, the sacred ancestral realm that gave birth to all things. The dreaming, or Chukurpa, was not merely a myth or belief. It was law, history, science, and spirituality woven into one. Every rock formation, every river, every animal had its place in the eternal story of creation. These people were not isolated tribes in a uniform culture, but rather a tapestry of over 250 distinct language groups, each with unique customs, dialects, and spiritual interpretations. From the harsh deserts of the Northern Territory to the lush rainforests of Queensland, Aboriginal cultures adapted with remarkable ingenuity to diverse ecosystems. They managed fire with precision, shaping the landscape through controlled burns that encouraged regrowth and attracted game. They harvested bush tucker, native foods like witchetty grubs, kangaroo, and yams, with sustainability and care, always taking only what was needed and giving thanks to the spirits. Knowledge was passed down through generations orally, in ceremonial dances, in songlines that served as both map and memory. A man could navigate hundreds of kilometers through the desert using songs that described waterholes, mountains, and sacred sites, singing the path of his ancestors. These cultural practices, rooted in deep environmental awareness and ancestral wisdom, represent one of the longest continuous civilizations on Earth. Yet, for much of modern history, this astonishing legacy was ignored, misunderstood, or deliberately erased. In 1770, when Captain James Cook claimed the east coast of Australia for the British Crown, the continent was declared terra nullius, land belonging to no one. This legal fiction denied the very existence of Aboriginal sovereignty, despite tens of thousands of years of habitation. What followed was one of the most tragic chapters in colonial history. Dispossession, violence, and the systematic destruction of Aboriginal life and culture. European settlers arrived in waves, bringing with them diseases that decimated indigenous populations. Smallpox, influenza, and measles tore through communities that had no immunity. Alongside this invisible invasion came frontier conflict, massacres, land seizures, and forced removals. Aboriginal resistance was brave and widespread, though often unrecorded. Warriors like Pemulwuy in the Sydney region and Jandamarra in the Kimberley led uprisings against colonial forces, only to be hunted down and remembered, if at all, as outlaws rather than heroes. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, policies of assimilation and protection replaced open warfare. Aboriginal children were taken from their families in what would later be known as the Stolen Generations. Raised in missions or white foster homes, they were forbidden from speaking their languages or practicing their customs. The aim was clear: to erase an identity that did not fit the colonial vision of nationhood. But identity, like the dreaming, cannot be so easily extinguished. Despite the oppression, Aboriginal people held onto their stories, their language, their connection to country. Elders became the keepers of memory, preserving fragments of tradition in the face of persecution. In remote communities, ceremonial life continued in secret, while in urban centers, Aboriginal voices began to rise in protest and pride. By the mid-20th century, a new chapter of resistance began. Aboriginal leaders organized for civil rights, land recognition, and cultural revival. The 1967 referendum marked a turning point. An overwhelming majority of Australians voted to include Aboriginal people in the national census and allow the federal government to create laws on their behalf. It was not a panacea, but it was a recognition long overdue that they were citizens of their own land. In the decades that followed, land rights became a central battle. The landmark Mabwa decision of 1992 overturned the doctrine of terra nullius, acknowledging for the first time in Australian law that Aboriginal people had inhabited the land with their own legal systems. It was a moment of historic justice, though the path to true reconciliation remained long and difficult. The 21st century has brought renewed efforts to amplify Aboriginal voices and protect their heritage. Art from the Western Desert has captivated the world with its rich symbolism and sacred meanings. Aboriginal music, dance, and storytelling are now celebrated as vital expressions of Australian identity. Initiatives to teach Indigenous languages in schools, preserve sacred sites, and include Aboriginal perspectives in history books mark a slow but significant shift. Yet challenges remain. Many Aboriginal communities still face disproportionate levels of poverty, incarceration, and health issues. The wounds of colonialism have not fully healed, and systemic inequality continues to shadow their journey. But amidst the struggle is resilience, creativity, and hope. Today, the world is beginning to listen. As climate change accelerates and modern societies search for sustainable ways of living, the ancient wisdom of Aboriginal stewardship offers valuable insights. Their concept of caring for country, a holistic approach to managing the environment with reverence and responsibility, has begun to inform ecological practices far beyond Australia. And as global conversations about Indigenous rights, cultural preservation, and historical justice grow louder, the story of the Aboriginal people stands as both a cautionary tale and a source of profound inspiration. They are not a relic of the past, but a living culture that has endured for millennia, teaching us that true belonging is not about conquest or ownership, but about connection to land, to ancestors, and to each other. Their history, once nearly forgotten, is now being remembered, restored, and reimagined, not just by Australians, but by all who seek to understand the deeper rhythms of human civilization.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like videos like this. Thank you.